Hi, this is Anthony Parent. I am a partner at Parent and I am the founder of IRSMedic. And I just want to talk today about tax attorneys, what we do, and how we help. One of the questions I'm asked all the time is, how does someone become a tax attorney? Well, here are the two steps. Step one, become an attorney, and then step two, call yourself a tax attorney. That's all it takes. In fact, that's all I did. Common misconception about attorneys is that there is no specialization credentials. If you're an attorney, you're allowed to practice any area of law. The one exception is patent law. There's a special patent law bar you have to take. So if someone's just calling them a tax attorney, well, just let you know how easy it is. It's probably a good idea to check out their history to make sure that they are what they claim they are. Because guess what? As soon as you say you are a tax attorney, that's it. You are one. Okay, well, but why? Why did I become a tax attorney? For me, it was protecting civil rights. People don't think about it, but when the IRS is coming after you, it's really your civil rights are at stake, and the tax code affects so many people. I really felt that this is the best way for me to do why I became a tax lawyer. And I always wanted to stand up for the little guy. And when it comes to the IRS, everyone is a little guy. I don't care who you are. Now, there's generally two types of tax attorneys, and actually, you know what we'll do? We'll even spell this correctly. Look at that. We're going to spell that correctly. There's two general categories. Those you hire to avoid trouble, and they'll help you with tax planning for nonprofits, compliance for transactions, estate planning, things like that. I'm not one of those attorneys. I do have a tremendous respect for them. I'm the other kind, the kind that you hire after trouble. Let's just say like an audit, criminal investigations, crippling assessments, and what I like to call enforced collection. That's actually what the IRS is. That's your euphemism for it. That's when they levy and garnish your wages, leave you absolutely nothing to live on. So what I am is a tax resolution attorney. And what I do is I protect procedural due process rights. Now, your procedural due process rights are constitutional rights, and that the government is not allowed to deny you your property without due process of law. And there's all the code sections in the IRS about that, and there's case law about that. And guess what? The IRS breaks the rules and the law all the time. And people ask me, is the IRS evil or incompetent? Well, neither, most of the time. It's just that the tax code is way too manageable to be properly implemented. It is an incredible beast. And the other thing, too, is that revenue officers are your field agents collecting, and they're not judges or attorney, and yet they're the ones who are given the keys to deny due process. And not only that, a lot of these folks just have a liberal arts degree. That's all that's required for a revenue officer. And then there's the centralized collections, and those folks, there's no college degree required at all. And so you really have people without the training and the skill to make kind of these tough calls about how to collect properly. And this is not to say that there aren't some truly wonderful, brilliant people at the IRS, but it takes a while. It takes a special person. Because most of the time, you know, the IRS has to be persuaded. Softly, we do have options to take the IRS to court, but by the time we actually get heard, it's too late. You know, we need an instant solution. So court is open, but it provides no practical relief. And plus, you know, at some point, there's a cost involved too. Very few taxpayers have the resources to pay for a full-blown tax court case. So most of our cases, 95%, I think, and this is probably true for any tax resolution attorney, all cases are handled administratively. Now, one of the things nice about dealing with the IRS is that there's an appeals program available. And for the most part, your appeals agents are not part of collections, and they are a bit of a higher caliber of individual. And this is what we find. And this is where we're really able to present things to people who can be reasonable. And we can explain a situation, why the deal is a win for the IRS and why it's a win for our client. And that's what we're always trying to accomplish. So many times we deal with the IRS, with the ACS and the revenue officers. The IRS wants something that's neither good for either party. The IRS wants to collect so much money, it's going to drive somebody out of business so they can't work. Well, guess what? As soon as the IRS gets that money, that person can't work anymore. That's it. That's really not a good deal for the federal government. So many times it's as if we are advocating the government's position, because a lot of people can be way too aggressive in their collections. Now here's the thing. When we're building a case, we have to build a case like it's for trial. You just can't be lackadaisical and think that you can just throw a few things to the IRS, not really look at it and review it. I mean, really what you have to do is put everything so incredibly organized, because you got to remember, these people do not want to find in your favor. They're looking to find in the government's favor. You have to make it so clear, and you have to understand that their attention level can be very small, because, by the way, these folks are totally overworked. Their attention level is very small, and they have a bunch of cases they have to fill. So really what you have to do is you have to lay it out so simple, like, like they're a member of the jury. So simple that they can follow away every step of the way, and your detail is persuading them. There's no point in yelling or getting upset most of the time. Really, you need to let your documents do all the work for you. Because guess what? If we lose at the trial, we've built our compelling case for appeal. So it's so simple for them to come in there and see everything that we did, and that we've referenced the correct law, and we've really given them something so that, this is really what we want to do, is we want to give whoever we're dealing with at the IRS, we want to give them something to hang their hat on, so that when they present something to their supervisor to approve, their supervisor won't think twice about approving it, and that we'll never try to put someone in the IRS in a bad position, something that would jeopardize their career. It's always going to be something that they could support and easily defend to any supervisor looking at their case inventory. People always ask, well, if they can represent themselves. We find that there's certainly a threshold where it's worth representing yourself and where it's not. It's somewhere, it's going to depend on the particular taxpayer. Usually for anything under $10,000, really not worth it to hire. Then we start getting somewhere between $15,000 and $30,000. It gets to be a marginal call. Then, somewhere over 35, 40, then that's really at the point where we're paying for our fee within 6 to 12 months, and we get the job done correctly. And here's the other thing too: the IRS doesn't know how, many people there, they don't know how to solve a case permanently. And we've seen this time and time again, people representing themselves, that they did exactly what the IRS told them to do, and yet they defaulted the agreement and led to something which led to disaster. And so the IRS, because it is, unfortunately, some of the people don't know how to do their jobs, or really sit in the position of a taxpayer who is not an employee of the IRS, and they just want it to go away as quickly as possible. People ask me, what about CPAs or enrolled agents? Are they good enough? Are they a good substitute for a tax resolution attorney? And I would say, it's possible. I certainly met some great CPAs and enrolled agents across the country. So, just like all tax attorneys aren't created equal, I'm sure that some CPAs and tax resolutions specialists may be better than others, and certainly someone who's local would likely be better than one of these national firms that advertise heavily. You got to check these people out on the Better Business Bureau. It still amazes me how many people still send their money to these folks in Texas and California and Colorado and Florida. I mean, they just change their names, and it's the same old people involved in it. South Carolina as well. So you got to understand that those people, what they do is pretty. It's pretty nasty what they do to taxpayers, because what happens is they just string people along with the representation agreement, and they anger the IRS so the case never gets resolved. and the case just sits there, and the IRS is now angry, and the taxpayer is in a worse position, and then they ultimately have to hire us, and that was certainly their fee could have been applied to a better case, and so this is kind of where we try to help people determine whether or not they need a tax resolution attorney. If you don't have anything to lose, the IRS doesn't want you anyway. And that's the truth. They really don't care. Trust me. There's lots of people who have big tax debts, and the IRS doesn't go after because they know there's nothing to get. So that's really one of the things. If you have something to lose, a job, a house, a wife, that's really where we come into play, that things need to be protected, as much as possible. And so kind of this is just a rundown. We got to keep the IRS at bay, and we got to convince them. And we can't convince them by yelling. That just doesn't work. We can't convince them by trying to put them into place, because it's just going to come back. We got to let our documents do the talking, and where necessary, then we got to say, okay, you're wrong in the law, and this is how we're going to appeal. And we have to do that respectfully, because we have seen cases where, and it was nothing that we caused, but prior representatives created an antagonistic relationship with the IRS, and it was really the client who suffered. We have seen the IRS act vindictively. And so it's just something, if you want to show off, if you want to put somebody down, that's going to come back. And really what you want to do is get this solved as quick as possible and protect yourself. And one more thing to think about is that the attorney-client privilege only applies when you hire a tax attorney. If you hire a CPA or tax resolution, or you're a taxpayer, whatever that is, that the IRS can subpoena them and force them to tell them what you told them. And so if you're worried about criminal charges, there's certainly many cases where the IRS's case, taxpayer handed to them, here, this is how to prosecute me. And the truth is a lot of taxpayers are breaking the law. The IRS doesn't have the ability to go after everybody, but it's certainly more likely that they'll go after somebody where the case is a slam dunk. And you got to understand, there's a reason why they're after you. And it's not, I think this is funny, right? It's not because you like their logo. I could have done it better. There we go. So my closing remarks, look, I don't know how that got in here. Wow, that's from a different slide. You don't need us, but you do need a tax attorney. So if you're worried about a fee, a lot of people that I deal with across the country, they're just like us. They charge a flat fee. They use a lot of support staff. The last thing you want is to be using an attorney to do a lot of the routine document work. Because if you're going to do that, I've seen just even for simple, relatively simple personal tax cases, I've seen, like in New York City, I know some attorneys, they'll end up with a bill of $20,000. And I look at, I've looked at the bills, and it's attorneys making copies and stuff like that. It's like, why? Really, and I think, any decent tax attorney firm is really going to kind of utilize support staff the way they can. And if you're doing enough of this, you should be able to quote a flat fee. And if you can't, you're not doing enough of it. That's really my opinion. So definitely go to a place that's going to charge you a flat fee up front and is going to use a support staff so that the tax attorneys can focus on what their specialty is, and that's persuading and getting on the phone with the IRS and understanding the law. And so thank you for watching. And if you want a free consultation with us, give us a call. The number is 888-IRS-HALT. That's 888-477-4257. Go to my website. I didn't even put that here. I better type that in. Let's see here. And we'll do that. Geez, I like the auto www. You probably knew that already. .IRSMedic.com. I got that capitalizations are really killing me, and also the font is not trebuchet like everything else, and I really got to make that correct. and just almost there, and we'll make that a bigger point because you want to see that, right? There we go, IRSMedic.com. And look, if you check out our website. If you don't want us, if you want someone, our offices are in the Northeast. So if you want someone a little closer to you, give us a call. We'll give you a recommendation of a tax attorney that we like. Thanks for watching, and visit IRSMedic.com for more updates.